Hey, LinkedIn family friends. Hello and welcome. This is Jana Masik, and I am the host of this LinkedIn Live broadcast, Powering Unique You. I am so happy to be here with you, and I'm very grateful for this platform that gives each one of us new opportunities. And I'm so grateful to connect with you today and have a conversation. And I want to start the conversation with a story. And the story, I want to take you back. I want to take you back when I had three kiddos, and I want to take you back when I was working in my, mid career. I was doing good job, and I was coming home. I was really, really working hard. And at that time, I'd say about 8 years ago, I was really, really working hard, and I wanted to be perfect at what I do. I wanted to serve all my customers, and I wanted to give the best I can be at my job. And I distributed so much energy into my job, and I was good at it. I was getting great comments. I was getting recognition from my manager, from my colleagues. I was getting great, wonderful reviews from the customer and the companies I was supporting. But what was happening when I come home and looking at my home and looking at my children, I felt I was completely lost, and I had no energy. I was so stressed. I had the stress in my body. I had the stress, mental stress. I had emotional stress of, how do I keep it all together? How do I glue things together? And I've shared before, right at that time, my husband lost his job. And we were going through some hard financial situation, thinking about what am I going to, how am I going to manage your finances? How are we going to get out of that spiral? That stressors, that of anxiety and that of unknown and feeling that you don't have enough energy and there's so much stress compiling upon you. I can sense it and feel it even now as I was wake up in the middle of the night and I was thinking about my job, and I was also thinking about what I haven't done yet and what else it needs to get done. And every morning was almost like a dread going into, all of this array of requirements that I felt I had upon myself. So that's how it looked like for me 8 years ago. Looking forward, where we are today, there are so many stressors that are in our lives. And I wanted to have a conversation today with you and share something that I've learned that have helped me identify the types of stress and also know how to strategically approach and cope with the stress. So looking at where you are, first of all, what stress is and what it causes to us. Stress is really releases the internal, and you can read and research that online. I'm not an expert on it, but I've also researched, and it causes, and I've experienced that it causes this chemical reaction within our body. It releases a lot of chemicals and a lot of hormones in our body, and we almost feel it physically, right? Our stomach is kind of icky, our shoulders are all heavy. We feel this like a burden upon us. So I feel a lot of us, and you may be in a situation where there is a lot of stress, right? There's a lot of stress in where we are globally. There's a lot of stress, maybe in our personal situation, maybe in our financial situation, maybe in our work situation. So I felt it was important to share this conversation and to share some of the things I've learned. If you're joining in live, say hello. I would love to chat with you and answer any questions you might have today. So let's dive in. 4 types of stress. So we know why we need to. It is important. As we see here, there's so many things around us that are uncertain. Our jobs may be uncertain, right? Our situations, about, more than 25 million people lost their jobs. Some of those things we can control, but when we equip ourselves through learning and through understanding, how we respond and how we, instead of reacting, jerk reaction, but we more consciously approach our thoughts and how we more consciously approach our response to what's coming our way, that we can equip ourselves and we can empower ourselves. So I want to share my experience and some lessons I've learned with a hope that that would encourage and inspire and equip you to also be more empowered. So hi, Robert. I just want to see if you say hi where you are. I see Robert's here. I'm really excited to see you here, Robert, and I'm looking forward to chat with you in a little bit as well. So 4 types of stress. And these types of stress were outlined in a tool that I've learned, Judgment Index. And Judgment Index is portraying how do you make decisions and what kind of judgment are you making in your life based on your values. So it defines a lot of aspects that can measure a lot of aspects. And one of the aspects that this tool measures is stress. And it categorizes stress in 4 types. The first type that you and I, the type of stress that we can encounter is the stress in the workforce. And they fall 2 of them in the workforce and 2 of them personal. So the first one in the workforce is when there's a lot of uncertainty. It's called anxiety stress. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of unknown things. There's a lot of things that are kind of hidden in a way that are not very easy to define. And that kind of uncertainty gives a lot of anxiety. It can stress people out, and we're looking now in a situation where globally there's a lot of uncertainty. And definitely in some of our workplaces, there's also some uncertainty because some businesses are trying to survive. Some businesses are not making it. And some businesses are doing well, but still there's an area of uncertainty for each one of us in a way with the workforce, with making sure that we are managing that side. So when you look at it, how do you see that there may be uncertain and vague issues going on, and it can take a toll on you? There's something that I learned recently was by listening to one of the podcasts, is that people are doing much better with a negative event than with ongoing uncertain situation. So I want to say this uncertainty can really wear us out, and we can see that even right now unfolding in front of us. So if you're affected by some of uncertainty, recognize this, root at the cause. And I want you to, as you go through this, as I'm sharing through this, maybe take a piece of paper and put those 4 in the categories and measure yourself. Do your own assessment in a way, from 1 to 10, how much stress do you see and feel in those categories? So first is a category workspace, and you can look at it in general, maybe worldwide, that we are in this pandemic. How much of this uncertainty causes and stresses you out and give you the anxiety? I say the strategy and how do we overcome this, particularly in the workforce, is improvement of communication. So the strategy needs to be improving the communication flow. And we're certainly looking for our leadership in our companies to lead and to guide us and to advise some of the communication to us and to disperse of those unknowns and to assure us that, that to do the best they can do, because they may not be able in a position to promise things, but to assure us that things would, get better, that they are there to lead us, that they are there to guide us. So the communication, although you may expect the communication to come to you, I want to encourage you to be proactive with your communication. And I want to encourage you, if you feel that you have the stress arises with you, this anxiety arises with you, what's going on, to reach out to your manager, to reach out to your supervisor, to reach out maybe to someone who you can consider as a mentor in your company, and have a conversation to open those lines of communication, to have more personalized discussion on that, to clear up some of those unknowns and uncertainties, and to reduce that stress for yourself. So be the owner of that communication. Don't expect that communication is going to come and, and relieve you from that feeling of stress, but be the owner. take the approach of leading the conversation, leading the communication, gaining the clarity that would help you to diminish that stress level in that particular type. Okay, good. So number 2 is obvious stress. An obvious stress in the workplace is where you have a defined issue. Maybe it is a timeline. Maybe it is a requirement. Maybe it is a project that you're working on. And that can put a lot of stress on you. So, you know, in my experience, whenever we work on the projects, we need to execute things very fast. And that the business will depend, the success will depend on each one of the employees executing fast and making the best decision and executing the best process to achieve the desired result. So that is posing a lot of stress in a way may pose a lot of stress on you. However, this is a stress that most of us as professionals, most of us are dealing much better. We are more equipped to deal with that. We learn, our brain in a way pivots and shifts and learns how to deal with this type of requirements, and we find a way in how to make things successful. So I say, evaluate yourself. Do you have that type of stress in your life right now? Where are you on 1 to 10? You know, how much stress do you have right now in that bucket? And then look at the solution or look at the strategy, how to eliminate the stress and how to manage it better, even better than you do right now. You could use SWOT analysis, which stands for strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. And you can look it up online if you're not familiar with that. You take the 4 buckets and you analyze, you know, what are your strengths? What are your opportunities? What are your weaknesses? And what are your threats? And doing that, by making that analysis, by doing that exercise, you will see a bigger picture and you will equip yourself on how to manage that particular stress in a more proactive way and diminish the stress. One of the things that stress does to you, as you are in elevated buckets on all of those, if you find yourself that you have elevated buckets on all of those stressors, what it does to you, it robs you of your energy. It takes away your brilliancy. It takes away the strengths that you can utilize for empowering yourself, powering your success, powering your career, powering your personal life. It robs you of opportunities and leaves you in a way more of a weaker version of you, which does not serve you. So I want you to be empowered. I want you to be encouraged. I want you to be on your A game. And that's why I'm here to share this knowledge and strategies with you that I hope you will find useful. Good. So number three, what is the type of stress that goes into a personal bucket? So we talked about non-obvious anxiety stress, obvious stress, which comes out of determined issues. Now we look in the personal bucket, number 3. This particular stress is a self-imposed stress. And how do you define that stress? What it looks like? To me, which I realized, I've learned this a year ago, that I was stressing myself out without even knowing that I'm doing it to myself. And no wonder why I would be so exhausted at the end of the day and so deprived of energy with my family when they need me the most. Because what I found out, this particular type of stress is rooted in a self-defeatist, self-negativity, and being hard on yourself. And who suffers of it is mostly if you are a very driven person, if you are a perfectionist, if you want to achieve, if you want to do the best job you can do, you're most likely going to be on a high level of that. But you might not even recognize that you suffer from that type of stress. Like I didn't recognize it until it was brought up to my attention. And as you look into that and consider, what are your conversations with yourself within your mind? What are you telling yourself? How are you speaking to yourself? Let's say you have a list of 10 things you need to accomplish today, and you worked so hard. At the end of the day, you've done 8 of those, and you still have 2 to go. And you are considering it. I just not got it done. I just failed. I still need to have 2 things to do, and I have not got it accomplished. So what it does to you, this type of stress, this type of negative self-talk, is that you start focusing on the things you have not achieved and beat yourself up for that, and derail and almost negate yourself for that, instead of looking at all of your achievements and accomplishments and congratulating yourself and feeling fulfilled and accomplished. This is really a game changer. If nothing else, if just this point stands out to you, I am happy that you will take this takeaway and improve your life and take it into your life and implement that. So this self-negative talk, this self-defeatist talk, is something that can deprive you of your energy unconsciously. So look at it from the perspective that what strategy can help you to minimize that? And it really going to be a game changer, because it's a mindset changer. It's a way you're talking to yourself, the way you see yourself, and the way you approach yourself. And the interesting factor of that, for those of us and you, if you're an achiever, if a perfectionist in a way, although perfectionism is really not really good thing to focus on. I feel we are all need to be human and realize we do want to thrive to be the best. But when we gain for perfectionism, we're not setting ourselves for success, and we most likely, gonna have to learn some additional lessons. And as we hold ourselves to this high standard, almost an achievable standard, we also become harsh on others, and we become judgmental, not on only ourselves, but also judgmental on others. So it's a twofold aspect, or twofold way how this unfolds in front of you. The strategy that you can utilize is reshifting your focus, and it needs to be something that you consciously do. It needs to be something that you consciously practice. And for me, I found out that it was such a anchor, such a thing, that this kind of a stress, this kind of an energy a taker, it almost like a leak, right? When the power plant produces the energy and you need to give that power to the entire city. But if there is a leak, or if there is like this something is happening, and the energy goes away in a waste, then you're not going to empower and you're not going to provide lights to the entire city. You're going to have to find it and they can fix it so that the energy flows and generate the desired outcome. An important thing here is to recognize that it does not happen overnight. For me, it was almost a year of journey and hiring a coach and digging deeper and looking deeper in learning how to reframe and reshift my thoughts, and learning how to be kinder to myself, and learning how to be more positive with myself and more affirming of myself. So the strategy for you to tackle this type of stress, if you do recognize yourself in the same boat as I am, is really reshifting your focus and focus on your accomplishments. Yes, you are very self-driven. Yes, you want to accomplish great things. And I want you to focus on what you accomplish and celebrate that. Celebrate it with yourself, for yourself, and also celebrate your accomplishments with others. All right? So, and the last one, the fourth one, is obvious stress. It's a personal obvious stress. And what falls into that category is really something that we can clearly name. And there are different branches, so to speak, in that category. What feels is what related to our relationships, our families, right? Our relationships with our loved ones, with our children, if you have them. Our relationships with our friends, our relationship with money, our relationships with our health. Those things that we can name. However, sometimes we have a difficult time because we have not worked on those relationships and they are in a way crippled. So I would love for you to grade yourself or rate yourself where you are on that obvious stress in this fourth column. And the strategy for that stress, as you can see that money or maybe lack of money really, really stresses you, really, really creates a tension between you and your spouse. And really, really, you wake up at night and you think, how am I going to pay the bills? Especially with many people right now that are having financial hardships. This is where you need to strategize. There are certain things that we cannot control. There are certain things that are happening around us that we cannot control. However, you can control your thoughts and you can control your actions. And by reframing your thoughts and by changing your actions, changing your attitude, you can step by step, one day at a time, move yourself toward the desired outcome versus just remaining a victim and blaming everybody else and not taking any action to improve yourself or your situation. So the strategy for this fourth stress, which I feel most of us relate to, right? We are all struggling with some type of relational situation, whether it's a toddler, whether it's a teenager, whether it's a spouse, health situation. Sometimes we can't control, but we do control what we put in our bodies and how do we move and exercise our bodies. And then money, relationships. So the strategy for you is really to look at what your priorities are. And when we started this conversation, it's about your values. The values and the priority that you have are going to drive your decisions, are going to drive your judgments. How are you going to make decisions? What kind of good judgment you're going to execute toward one area or another area of your life. And as you reevaluate your priorities, the strategy is reevaluation and looking longer term. How do you want to see, where do you want to see yourself go and grow? Where do you want to see your relationship go and grow with your spouse? Where do you want to see your relationship go and grow with your children? How do you want to see your health going and growing? What are you going to do about your financial stability? I can share a little bit of a personal journey. My husband and I, we've been in debt for several years. We've been struggling financially, and although both of us were working, we were made some decisions that were not strategic decisions, that were not serving us well. And for me, when I was stressed, I felt I needed to go and fill that void by going and buying something that can potentially help me fill that void, which is emotional spending. And many of us have that type of an emotional spending in place, and we're buying things that don't really satisfy us, but we hope that we're going to find satisfaction in those things. So on this journey to financial stability, financial freedom, there has to be a lot of work done in how you view yourself and where do you seek this relief of anxiety or relief of stress or relief of not being powerless. Are you going to go and spend on something that you hope this thing is going to give you that relief? Or are you going to take an approach and do a little bit of harder work, dig deeper, and change your thoughts and change your actions and change how you design your life? The first one is easy and it's going to put you more in debt. The second one is a little bit more harder and it's going to take some time and it's going to take commitment. However, I am fully assured that you can do that if you choose to do so, because you are in control of your thoughts, your actions, and your habits. And by changing our thoughts, by changing our actions, by changing our habits, one at a time, we can become the person we want to be, and we can design the life that we want to live. And I believe that by doing that, we will, instead of being powerless, empower ourselves a little bit more each day. And we will also encourage others to do so. And by doing that, we can change the world. So thank you, my friend, for listening today. And if you have any questions and if you would like to connect and have a conversation, I'm happy and open to do so. Feel free to reach out. And until next time, I wish you well. Have an amazing weekend ahead.